Hello, and welcome to the Wisping Hour. I'm your ghoul next door, Sherry.
And I'm Tipsy.
And today we're going to talk about a particular location. So, we're going to talk about the Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania. So, we thought we'd just focus on one particular area for this one here and just tell you all about it and some of the kind of spooky things that happened there and just kind of take you along for the ride as we kind of explore this location. And so throughout the month of October, here we're going to be doing several kind of episodes themed around it being the spooky month. And so for this week, we've chosen to speak about the penitentiary. So we'll just go ahead and get on started on that. So go ahead, Tipsy, and lead us off.
Absolutely. So the Eastern State Pen was founded in 1822 was when it was commenced. The construction was commenced in 1822. It was designed by John Haviland and opened in 1829. It's one of the first true penitentiaries of the U.S. as far as the layout and construction layout for it was set up. So the 7 corridors of heated and skylighted cells capable of holding 500 convicts. It's a lot of people.
That's a lot to cram in, yeah.
Yeah, and they reached full capacity come 1971, and that was, let's see, I do believe that was 1970. Now that I'm looking at that, yes, it was. Yeah, so it remained open in operation until 1971, but the Eastern State Pen from 1929 until 1971 held most of the criminals in the U.S. at that time. That's where they would typically go. Of course, other penitentiaries and prisons were set up around the country in between that period, but some of the most hardened criminals or the worst criminals, they'd be sent there because the way that John Haviland had set the pen up was in a Quaker state of mind, which would have been isolation. They founded and believed heavily in solitary confinement because of self-reflection and things like that.
Okay.
That cruelty in and of itself of solitary confinement, especially for some of the prisoners that had death sentences or lifelong sentences, it was kind of rough. And so the pen is definitely known for some of their more psychologically brutal forms of imprisonment, in other words.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fun facts, though, in a little bit of a lighter note, I've founded 6 infamous people, Al Capone being the most infamous. Of course, we all know what Al Capone was. He was the original Scarface.
Yep.
He spent his first ever prison spell at Eastern State Pen, where he was
Oh,
only incarcerated for 7 months from 1929 to 1930. They found him guilty of carrying and concealing a deadly weapon, and that was all they had on him. And so the corruption and fear meant that Capone spent most of his time at Eastern State Pen. Although, because of his
infamy.
infamy. Yeah, I said that right the first time, didn't I? Because of his infamy, he also got treated lusciously while in prison. They have it still set up to this day. When you go to do the in-home museum tour, they have it set up the way it would have been set up for him during the 90s. And he had lavish rugs. He had paintings and a radio. Yeah, it was just,
Oh,
his
wow.
cell was wild for what most cells looked like. Of course, I think they did allow them certain privileges on things like that. So, like, I don't think it was just Al Capone. I think there was one other cell that had some items in and around that they could bring in from home or people would donate or something. Not quite sure
Right.
how they always got them. Of course, a lot of people smuggle stuff into prisons, even in today's society. But moving on, after Capone was gone, Willie Sutton was one of the most infamous bank robbers in America.
Gluten.
Slick Willie. The reason why they called him Slick Willie was because he was a gentleman thief. So he only ever robbed the rich. He never killed anyone. And he was friends with some of the leading mafia members of that time who they just enjoyed his company because he was just a gentleman. I don't that it was the biggest emphasis they had for Slick Willie. He was imprisoned at Eastern State in 1934 after a machine gun robbery at the Corn Exchange Bank, and he was sentenced to serve between 25 and 50 years. The ticker, though, was 11 years into his sentence. He escaped along with 11 other convicts. They dug a tunnel 100 feet underground.
So this was like the original Shawshank Redemption here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, essentially. And I don't know if you've watched any of the Wes Anderson movies, but he has one. What was it? Was it the Phoenician Scheme is good, but there was another Wes Anderson film that I thought of when I was listening. It's the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay.
They have a escaping prison scene, and it's like 5 guys, and which granted, that's actually based off of this story that I'm getting ready to swindle into. Leo Callahan. He was the only prison inmate to successfully escape Eastern State Pen out of the well over 100 who tried. He was
Oh,
the only one who escaped, but him and 5 other inmates escaped at the same time. They scaled the 30-foot east wall of the prison with a homemade ladder, but all 5 of Callahan's accomplices were caught. He wasn't. They never found him. He got out of there super slick.
oh
He
wow.
should have been Slick Leo.
Yeah, yeah. Better name probably, yeah.
These next 2, they're kind of an it's a toss up. I don't really know if they belong in the infamous list like Al Capone and such, but there was the rabbi. Now, this was a member of the so-called Philadelphia's Poison Ring. They were murder for hire gang. So they would usually accept things like widows or well, afterward widows, women that would basically want to hire them to kill their husbands,
Ah,
and they would take the life insurance policy and give half of that to the gang, and that's basically what they did. So it was mostly unhappily married or murderous women.
lovely.
So, yeah, so they cleaned up on this scheme for nearly 6 years, the Poison Ring did, murdering at least 30 people, possibly up to 100.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, predominantly using just arsenic. So they just poisoned them. They didn't do, they didn't burn them alive. They didn't, shoot them or anything like that. I assume that the 30 that they have recorded for at least 30 people was probably mostly just arsenic killings, whereas the other possibly up to 100 victims were probably more like accidental deaths that they couldn't prove whether or not the poison ring did it
Yeah,
or not. So
gotcha.
the rabbi was found guilty and he served a life sentence in 1939. He arrived at Eastern State in 1942 and became deeply involved with the Jewish community in the prison synagogue, therefore gaining his
I was gonna
notoriety as the rabbi.
okay.
Yeah, because that's why I was like, this one's kind of a toss up because it didn't make a lot of sense as to why he was infamous, except for the fact that he was with a really murderous gang. So I don't know. Kind of. I mean that's I guess that's enough notoriety, but still, yet he died in prison in 1954, with many of his fellow inmates describing him as an act of kindness and a lightness in the dark while they were there incarcerated. So there's no telling what all he did. The most they had was that he had a lot of kind things that he did. He would get things for people without asking for anything in return, that kind of thing. So yeah. The next one's Sam Barlow. He was the penitentiary's last death row inmate for his role as a teenager in 1968. He spent less than 2 years in the Eastern State Prison, and then it was closed down, and the inmates were all moved elsewhere. He was released in 19, having served 48 years without parole.
Oh wow.
But he was awarded the Incarcerated Person of the Year by the Pennsylvania Prison Society.
They have that's an interesting,
I know, interesting achievement. It's
I'm like,
a
is
life
that
achievement for
something
somebody.
is that something you would hang up, when you get out on the wall, like, "I was the prisoner of the year."
I
Friends
know,
and family come over,
is it on a good
you're like,
moral
"Look at that."
basis or a bad moral basis? That's yeah, I didn't find any more on that. So unfortunately, I'm sure that the museum has probably started to pull in a lot of information off the street so that way their tours still pay out. So I imagine they have probably more details, if we could get a sponsorship for that museum. Go there, check it out. The last, and in my opinion, aside from Al Capone, because he was a very big on soup kitchens and advocating for the poor. I do like him, but my favorite prisoner so far at this establishment was Pep, the cat murdering dog. In 1924, the dog of the governor of Pennsylvania was sentenced to life at Eastern State Penitentiary. because they believed he had murdered the governor's wife's cat. I
What?
go, "What? There's no way," because the picture they have is absolutely adorable. I'll send you the link.
Actually, you know
Absolute
what? Just do it in the share screen. Yeah, I
Oh, okay,
totally
yeah.
wanna see the dog if you
Yeah.
can pull that up.
So
Anybody that's, just listening, we gonna have some,
so there he
screenshots
is.
for you. Oh my
That
god.
is Pep the dog, the cat murdering dog.
He is so adorable.
So right, and so see, and here's the sad thing is that they gave him the life sentence for murdering the cat, but what the reality of it was probably more prosaic, which he was caught chewing on the wife's cushions, and he chewed on a bunch of stuff in the house. So yeah, I just think the governor's wife was just not too happy with the dog. So, at
Oh
least they
my
didn't just
gosh.
end him, but they did give him a mugshot. He has a certificate in the prison system, and yeah, he is by far my favorite inmate. He's just so cute. He
He
looks like
was
my lab.
cute. Yeah.
Of course, he looks like
Alright.
he has light colored eyes,
Yeah, it's hard to
but
tell.
yeah, it's hard to tell with the sepia photo.
Okay,
But yeah,
yeah. You can just, stop doing the screen share then. Okay. But, wow,
so yeah,
that last is the cutest, inmate by far.
right?
Um,
He's adorable.
so since I was able to pull some things to show here since we did kinda talk about them, let me find those particular things here.
I'm interested in to hear what you'd found with some of the hauntings.
Yeah.
We can make some educated guesses as to whose spirits they belong to.
There we go. So we had okay. So there are some things I'll go ahead and show here. I'll do some screen sharing as I said I was going to do. So I've got it's basically some things. I was looking up all this stuff and I thought, well, this being a YouTube video. So anybody that's watching on the YouTube, we will have things to show throughout it. So one of the first things I do have is what the prison actually looks like from the outside. And so I'll go ahead and screen share that with you. This is not what I was trying to do. There it is.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties.
No, it's all good.
But there's the Eastern State Penitentiary right there from the outside. So that's what it looks like. And then this
Wow.
here is the layout of the inside of the prison. So they kind of did like almost like a spoke kind of thing where each of the different blocks were laid out in this fashion, basically.
Why they did one it looks like the left section definitely was longer corridors than the right section. I wonder what the right section was used for then, or
Yeah.
who was housed in it mostly.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm not really sure. Maybe it was just has to do with how they built the building to where they just had more room on the left side, so they were able to put some longer corridors. I don't know. But that's the layout, yeah, for sure. And then I do have a picture that I was able to find of Al Capone's cell. So here is Al Capone's cell.
Hey, there's that rug. Oh my gosh, yeah,
Yes.
look how lavish.
It's
He was
so
living it up.
Definitely, yeah. He had a very fancy cell compared to everybody else. I'm pretty
There's
sure
even
everybody
a
else just
jukebox in the back, or that might
Mhm.
be a phono player. Of course, they've got a vase on it now, but it may have
Yeah.
opened at the top. Wow. A little writing desk. He's even got dresser drawers.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
he's
prison cells are not that way anymore.
No, definitely
Not that
not.
I know,
But
but
yeah,
just
he
what
had
you
a
see.
pretty cushy stay overall. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. So that was kinda nuts. Oh, yes. Then there was actually one more thing here.
When I was traveling, we went through a penitentiary out in is that Wyoming? It may have been in Montana. We stopped at a town and went through their old prison that they turned into a car museum. And they had
Oh,
cars from the first Model T to a Lambo. And it was huge, but it used to be a prison. And they had cells and stuff decorated. But yeah, I've got some photos from that too.
oh,
Oh,
pardon
there's Moon
me.
Pie.
There's the moon coming to say hi. She wants to
She'll
be a
come to
part of the
get stretches.
conversation. And actually, there was one more. I forgot that I had this one here. So when I was looking at kind of some prison pictures, we were talking a bit about like how most prison cells were not like Al Capone's. So I do have actually some images of the, death row section. So I'll share one more time so we can see death row here.
Oh, yeah. See, oh,
There you go. So there
yeah.
is that's death row. So as you can tell, um
The thing about solitary confinement, like, I understand I get the root of what the Quakers of what they believed, and I understand the solitary confinement that way, but, I mean, honestly, they could talk next to each other, so I don't really feel like it was fully, you know what I mean? You like, they knew they may have been in individual rooms and stuff, but they knew they weren't alone, and I
right.
felt like that probably, I don't know, in my mind when I was reading about how the cells were set up, in my mind, I felt like they were, like, you know, a foot thick concrete walled platforms where, and then a great big iron door that you couldn't, had little bars through or something. That was what I
Yeah.
was picturing as the solitary confinement, and they couldn't hear anyone or they couldn't, pass notes or stuff. But those walls seemed pretty thin. I'd be passing notes.
Yeah. And actually, I've got when I talk about some of the punishments and whatnot that kind of bring up those kinds of ideas. Basically, like in the beginning, they really kind of stressed about keeping them from interact from each other and things like
Yeah,
that. So it was basically forbidden to interact with other prisoners or guards for in the beginning. And so
I
basically
can't
this
see how they'd
was
keep that up. Yeah.
yeah, well, this ended up causing some of the prisoners to kinda talk to themselves deliriously, or even
Oh,
risk being caught talking with each other just to kinda get that human connection that as humans, we're social creatures, and so because of that, they had some pretty extreme punishments, based around that. So, the wardens actually put felt shoe covers on the guards so their footsteps couldn't be heard, and whenever prisoners were move for any reason, if they were moved from their cells, they had hoods placed over the prisoners.
I
And
did
so
read that.
yeah, and so here in this prison, silence was the golden rule, but it ended up causing a lot of
Psych
issues, a lot of
breaks.
yeah, a lot of, yeah, definitely a bit of insanity, some extremely harsh punishments that, made things even worse for prisoners and things like that, but in the beginning, especially, it definitely wasn't a good place. I think from what I understand, they started off as solitary you can let me know if I'm wrong, like, they started off as, the focus being on solitary confinement, but as the later years, as it got closer to the prison being shut down,
Yeah. The
they
early
they
1900s is when they
yeah.
reformed it.
Yeah, it became more of like a more modern prison to where those types of things weren't enforced and things like that.
Yeah, I can only imagine how many, which of course, and then granted, lobotomy was real big during that time and would have been real big during that time. So if they did go mad, they most likely lobotomized them afterwards. But of course, I don't know. Because if it was founded on under Quakers and remained under Quakers for, I'm not sure. Let me see about looking that up real quick. Because I bet if the Quakers were still in charge of it, or those who had Quaker beliefs were in charge of it, I imagine they probably would have held that onto that. They wouldn't have lobotomized. They wouldn't have, because that would have been against what God would have wanted or the Holy Spirit would have wanted in their eyes. They were more based on the spirit. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah, they had a pretty varied history. So yeah, while you pull that up, I'll go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that they did do as far as for the
Yeah,
some of those
punishment.
punishments. Yeah. So one of the things they had was the iron gag. And so I'm going to go ahead and real quickly just kind of show you what that looked like. I do have an image of that too.
Ooh.
There it is. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share that. So there it is. There is a lovely image of the iron gag.
Oh my gosh.
So this piece
Yeah, that
here,
kept their tongue from moving.
exactly. Yep. And so, yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you definitely a bit more of it now.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
okay. So basically it was an iron pallet that was placed over the tongue, and then it was chained around the jaw. So that's what you saw basically. So it was used multiple times, but in this one particular story, to kind of give you an idea of some of the dangers even, it was used on a prisoner, Matthias Macumsey. So since the prison was founded on the Quaker principles of solitude and silence as a method of reform, they would use this form of punishment. So he was 44 years old, and he was in his second year of a 12-year sentence at this time for murder. And for this punishment, he was only guilty of talking to other prisoners. And so when the guards caught him, they put the gag on him. To do this, they bound and shackled his hands behind his back, and then they attached the gag to chains by chains to the shackles on his wrist, and then they just left him in his cell. So an hour later after this, he was found dead. What happened was he bled to death from his tongue being ripped up by the iron gag.
My gosh.
Yeah. So that was one of their punishments that they had. Another one they had was called the mad chair. So this was given this name because it wasn't uncommon for prisoners to go mad before the punishment had ended. So I have another screenshot for you on that one here. And when I tried everything that I looked up, every time I looked up this particular thing, this is the image that kept coming up. So I assume this might have been it. I'm not too sure, but I'll go ahead and share that with you. Here it is.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, that's what that was there. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and
Oh,
yeah, that's pretty harsh, but, it gets better.
yeah, that's the isolation of even movement. So
Mhm.
that's yeah, that
Yeah.
I can't imagine them having any sort of stable state of mind to even leave a place like that after.
Yeah. Well, what happened with this was so at this time, Philadelphia doctors believed that mental illness was spread through the body through circulation. So they devised this punishment. What they thought was if they could just stop blood from pumping through the body, they could cure insanity. So the mad chair was created so the inmates could be strapped in so tightly it was literally impossible for them to move. They would then be forced to sit in this chair for days without food. And so by restricting the blood flow, inevitably this did cause damage to the body, and inmates would often have to have their limbs amputated from their time spent in the chair. Yeah. And yeah, still going with that.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
I'm
the
getting goosebumps thinking about the
yeah,
damn chair.
right? Prisons were very, very hard back in the beginning. So thankfully there's been a lot of knowledge and improvement since then. But
Well, I haven't yeah, I think what they did was even though I did see here that they said that there was little evidence support that it was actually Quaker inspired. The organization that promoted Eastern States creation, the Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, which is today's Pennsylvania Prison Society, was less than half
oh,
Quaker and was led for
I
nearly
got you.
50 years by a evangelical bishop, William White. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
yeah,
just granted I mean, I understand the reflection for but I mean, you can't control where people have their minds or where they go with their minds. So
yeah,
the isolation in and of itself, yeah, that was gonna
yeah,
they wouldn't need a lobotomy, they just went mad.
yeah.
Probably comatose too, especially after the chair. Jesus.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. And then it gets worse.
Of course.
So there's another one that they had called so prisoners would also be punished by water bath.
Oh,
And
like
it's
waterboarding?
no, no, not even worse. So it sounds pretty benign, right? When you're just saying it that way. Oh,
Yeah.
water bath. But it wasn't.
Shit, they baptize them for 5 minutes.
Mm-mm. So this is probably, I think, the most horrific of the punishments. I feel like is the most brutal. I mean, they're all bad, but this one. So what happened was if you broke the rules during the winter season, a guard would dunk your head in ice water, ice cold water, and then hang you on a wall all night. So the frigid air would cause your skin to ice over before morning, and
Oh
many
my
didn't make it through the night. So there were a
oh
lot of
my
prisoners.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd
That
think
one
after,
I
like, the 1st or 2nd one that would have died from that, they'd been like, "Oh, maybe this isn't
right?
the
But
best way to punish our prisoners." Because
maybe
most of
they
them were with petty crimes.
yep.
That's just the thing. Let's see, where was I just reading that at? What about they had small doors originally, like, only big enough to pass through meals and such,
Right.
but it was declared impractical afterwards, so they were reconstructed to allow prisoners to enter and leave the cell blocks, which is just wild. So they basically initially they concreted them in with a portal, a little hole size of maybe probably the size of a regular standard brick to pass food stuff through. But like
Nuts.
then you're right, but they probably had some sort of porta potty system, but then again,
Yeah,
how
they
would you
were
even yeah.
well, actually, that's something I did read. So they were pretty advanced for their time, so they actually had toilets in each of the cells.
Oh, so they had indoor plumbing. Well, yeah, they would
Mhm.
have had yeah, they
Yep.
would have had indoor plumbing by the yeah, even
Yeah.
early 1800s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's okay. I can see that. I just didn't know if they because of the if they when they were originally building it, because that would have been that was 1820, 1822 or something when they commissioned it. It's just see, they say the inmates were housed in cells that could only be accessed by entering through a small exercise yard attached to the back of the prison. Only a small portal and just large enough to pass meals opened onto the cell block. So that the wording is very confusing.
Yeah. It sounds like they had some kind of a portal maybe on the backside that led to the exercise yard that they could go in and out of, and, like, the front side where the guards would bring the food, like, in the inner portion of the penitentiary, they could pass in the food through that small
Right. Through the
hole they
corridor.
made.
Yeah, they had
Yeah,
the corridors and then yeah,
yeah.
that's still and then they had the skylights, as I said prior, they were called the Eye of God, so that the prisoners felt that God was always watching them.
Ah, okay. Well, they had one other thing here. So I found one other punishment. So this one, they had something known as the hole. So it was a dank underground cell where anybody that was placed in there had no light, no human contact, no exercise. They didn't even have a toilet down there and very little food. So basically, it was
They were
literally
starved
like
to death
well, I'm
in
pretty
a
sure they
hole.
let them out, but they just didn't give them a lot of food. Like, they were definitely suffering, like, in complete darkness and probably hardly any room and all that, just
I think about the box from Matilda.
yeah, yeah, something like that. But, um but yeah, so that was another thing that they had. I think overall, I would probably say that because of everything that happened in this prison with their in some cases, there are punishments resulting in death, and it obviously wasn't a very pleasant place to be in. And so I imagine that probably a lot of that kind of energy has stayed with the prison even after long after it's closed because this place is they do regular ghost tours, and so
Yeah,
there's
I was
been
reading Steve Buscemi. Sorry.
yeah, there's been a number of, like, paranormal experiences, at the prison, and it's been investigated over the years by multiple, like, large organizations or ghost
Ghost
hunting
Hunters
kinda
or
work.
Ghost
Yeah,
Adventures,
ghost hunters.
Zach
Yes, yeah,
Baggins,
and it's
whichever one he's with.
right. Yeah, yeah. So it's, like, really well documented, basically, with everything. So, like, some of the more common experiences, if you go there and you spend time there. So some of the more common experiences are things like shadow figures. They're like dark, shadowy shapes they frequently dart along the walls or appear suddenly and then disappear suddenly.
Yeah.
Um, and then in certain parts of the prison, there's some more specific phenomenon that tends to happen more often. And so one of those is like in cell block 12, you'll often hear disembodied screams, laughing, or other voices in that area. In cell block 6, that one is known for its shadowy figures. And cell block 4 is known for visions of like ghostly faces, basically just seeing faces and nothing else in there. And then some people have even reported seeing a guard in a tower. It's common to hear footsteps or wails or whispers as you take these tours or even spend overnight. And then, interestingly enough, death row is especially known for threatening and aggressive noises. So many of them, those have been recorded on as EVPs. And do you want to go ahead and explain EVPs real quick for anybody that doesn't know?
So that's the EVPs is the let's see, there's another word for them though. Hold on. So electronic voice phenomenon.
Right.
They'll use like a little box that will pick up radio signals, but it's just static on our end, and then the spirits and ghosts, or whichever you want to call them, use it and pull the noise from the radio waves. And so then they'll come up with either sentences or just single words or that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so apparently death row has those more threatening ones going on there. People do report being grabbed or touched. There's cold spots everywhere. And then some people, they describe feelings of like immense pressure on their chest or shortness of breath or anxiety and just kind of a feeling of unease, essentially. So, yeah, tons of phenomena.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like I said, like, it's like the Pythian castle that we talked about last time, that, those dungeons down there were the same. They were heavy. You felt weighted, like pulled downward, and, of course, I didn't get a lot of anxiety feeling. Mostly, nausea I can associate with pretty quick with paranormal, but yeah, the heavy feeling I do recall that. So, yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they have a lot of that within those prison walls. There was a
Yeah.
prison I also went through in, Jeff City that's now a museum, Jeff City, Missouri. They've got that was a heavy feeling all walking throughout that place. I didn't have the hair in my face type thing that I did like I did at the Pythian Castle, but the heaviness, the weighted down, and nausea. Had all that through there. It's just,
Hmm.
prisons, the guards could be rough, the prisoners were rough. There's a lot of stuff even nowadays, there's a lot of awfulness that goes on in our prisons, and I can only imagine the kind of awfulness that happened when there wasn't cameras to record or
Mhm.
video or, things to hold people accountable
Right.
like they are
Yeah.
today, and especially on both sides, not just prisoners, but also on the guard side, majority of like like the water baths during freaking winter. That was all on one guard. You know that. Like or they got together and was like, "Yeah, let's do that." That just seems like the negative energy, the negative thinking, and then that
Mhm.
negative aura that then envelopes the place. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Totally, totally feel that.
yeah. And so when I looked up, these things, I also was, trying to find some more detailed experiences. So I found a couple that, I thought were interesting. So one of the most legendary stories that came out of here, was actually an experience by someone named Gary Johnson. He was a maintenance worker. So in the early 1900s, he was fixing an old lock and probably in one of the cell blocks when he felt something grip him so tightly he couldn't move. And he described this experience as negative, horrible energy that kind of radiated throughout the room. And he saw tormented faces on the cell walls. And then one face in particular, seemed to like he got the feeling of to like an urge to get
Run.
closer to it and actually to get closer to it, which,
What?
yes, yeah. It doesn't say anything more about this experience of his. I assume that he probably, got let go and probably even left the area, but, who knows? But, yeah, that's all I was able to read about that particular experience from the early nineties. And then since then, of course, like I said, there's been tons of ghost tours and everything. So there's this one woman, she worked as a tour guide for 5 years, and she was hosting a ghost hunting group, and they were conducting an EVP session. And so she was posted at the end of the hall, near the central hub. Like you saw that spoke, she was near the central hub. So as she sat there, she watched a small blue light emerge from one of the cell blocks, and um, it came into the hallway basically. And then another light joined out of a different cell block. So she was both fascinated and afraid. So she was kind of frozen there just watching these lights. Like it looked like they almost like they were dancing for a bit. So she called down to the ghost hunters and saying like, hey, I think I'm seeing something paranormal. But they just kind of brushed her off and they said it was probably just flashlights. So they didn't really take what she was saying seriously. So she just watched these blue lights for a bit and then they just split up and disappeared back into the cell blocks.
Wild.
Yeah, that would be neat for sure.
Blue lights.
Yeah. And then another person, here's another story. This one is someone was doing a ghost tour and he was in one of those areas where people say they see a face basically. So he saw a ghostly face. And so he instantly went to try to find someone that worked there, and he felt a hand slam down on his left shoulder. So he found a worker, and a worker came with a flashlight, and they looked in the hall in the cells, and they said that they don't have anybody working down there at this time. So they had no explanation for the hand, right?
Just gonna slap him.
Yeah. But the next morning, in the morning time when he was getting ready, him and his wife were getting ready for their day, his wife saw that he actually had a red hand impression on his shoulder where he felt the touch.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. I've been pushed, and it wasn't a great big push, but it was enough of a push that it was like, yeah, I was pushed. Like, it wasn't,
You
when
no
you're
trip.
right, it wasn't a misstep, it was you're going forward. Yeah, but, never had a handprint left on me. That would be I don't think I'd like that at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm like, I don't need the physical evidence left behind.
Right, like, I'm good with visual and sound, don't let's not get touchy.
Yes.
Keep our boundaries, my guy.
But, yeah, and so, yeah, those were just a couple that I found, but, just lots of activity there. So if you're around the Pennsylvania area, it sounds like it'd be a pretty interesting visit or
Well,
place to visit.
I hope to get up to Pennsylvania at some point, because my father-in-law is up there, and, I think that would definitely be some place that Caleb and I would enjoy going to, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
I
And
love
they
going through
do
museums like that, especially of
yeah.
older architecture that's, been there for 100, 200 years. It's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And, like, even today, so there's some things that they are known for, like, definitely the ghost tours is their biggest thing, but
Right.
they've had some other things as well, just kind of, in general. So they had the plumbing, and they were, like, one of the from the beginning, they had, the toilets and everything like that, and so they've had a couple of, like, plumbing exhibits and things like that there. So they've got.
Plumbing
Let's see here.
exhibits.
Yes, yeah, plumbing exhibits. They've had a bunch of art, kind of exhibits as well. And so just kinda over time. But I think probably one of the more interesting exhibits that I found was it's called Ghost Cats. So when the prison closed in 1971, a colony of cats actually lived inside. So when restoration began, the cats were captured and neutered, and and then eventually they, just didn't have a colony there anymore.
Right.
So they're yeah,
They were
I mean,
relocated.
yeah. So, so there's an artist, Linda Brenner. So she sculpted 39 cat sculptures and then surrounded the property with these sculptures. And they
Wha
were even yeah, and they're really cool actually. So
Yeah,
the
that's wonderful, but
yeah,
the amount of time and attention.
yes. Oh, but they look so good. I've got some to show you. I found some.
Ooh,
So they were purposely made of material that slowly dissolves over time from artist's perspective, to represent the inevitable natural decay that faces all living things. So
wow.
so they won't be
That's
there
interesting.
forever. Yeah. And I definitely found this. I'll do a screen share so you can see these lovely
I'm seeing
sculptures.
kittens.
Yes.
My grandmother, speaking of, has about 8 kittens right now, barn cats.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. Now is that a statue or like
that's
yeah,
a
that's a
statue.
statue.
Huh?
That looks like a real cat.
Yes. Oh, wait, and there's more.
Oh my gosh.
Let's see. This one's hard to see.
Oh, that is so cute though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm,
Yeah, I saw the one on the stairwell.
here we go.
Wow. Boy, she took a lot of time. Well, she added every detail to that one.
Yep. There's probably a good image of how they look from the front. Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool though. What an interesting thing to do. Brava. Good on her.
Yeah.
That is it's definitely that is something, but that is so lovable.
It
I'm
is.
sure the people that that ran the place were like, "Yeah, I don't care. Go ahead. You wanna
And
put
they
cats around the place."
I really felt that she understood cats, because like, they look like
Oh,
they could
yeah.
just
They
get up and start
yeah,
moving.
she had great models. It's probably just one she's got one cat, and she's just modeled after him.
Yeah. Oh, that was it. So, yeah, that one's cleaning its paws. Yeah, and so, like, these are just throughout the entire prison, just in
That is so
places
cool.
all over.
That is so cool. What an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it when people just decide to put their mark someplace because it brings them a sense of joy, and that to me brings me joy. I'm
Yes.
one of those people that love seeing love. Like, anything, if people dancing or people just having a good time enjoying themselves, they don't have any other inclination of what's going on around them.
Yes.
I love that. That there's nothing more that'll bring a bigger smile to my face. I love it when my kids do that kind of thing too. So sweet.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So definitely found that interesting for sure. So it's something for you to look to. So if you do decide to
Yeah.
go to Pennsylvania, you could find the cats. There's
And
39 of them. So there's a challenge. Find all 39.
oh my gosh, I'll have to. Now I'll take 39 photos of cat statues for an
Exactly.
Easter egg hunt, scavenger hunt.
I would do it.
Right? That'd be fun. That'd be a hell of a good time. I'll have to send you those photos if you want to include them. But I had a couple of those photos from the old prison, and I'll have to look at where I went. I'm pretty sure it was in Montana, but I may be wrong. But they had mannequins set up like in there, and they're not good mannequins. they're like
No.
they're like from like the 20s, 30s
So they've
style.
seen better days.
Yeah, well, and then of course, their version of mannequins back then is not like what it is now.
Yeah.
Like the Annabelle doll. I've been seeing that popping up a lot lately, but and everybody thinks the Annabelle doll is like a porcelain doll. It's like, nah, she's a Raggedy Ann.
Yep.
She's not even solid.
Dolls.
But
I've always found dolls creepy, just in general. My grandma had these porcelain dolls basically
yes.
in her bedroom, right? And so whenever I'd spend the night over, she just had the one room. And so I'd sleep in there and it'd be like, those dolls always creep me out every time. Like every time. In fact, I think at one point I actually like started turning them around.
Yeah.
But yeah.
My mom had I had one American Sweetheart doll from somebody. I couldn't even tell you where it came from now. But mom also had a couple of porcelain dolls from when she was little that her grandmother Hazel had given her. But then she also had homemade ventriloquist dummies that my granddad
Oh.
had whittled and painted up for her. And they are about the creepiest things you will ever see. They're super eerie. But no, when I was little, Child's Play was like
Mhm.
one of the biggest scary movies at that time. I think I was 5 or 6, way too young to be watching it, but I watched it anyway. I enjoyed them. After I watched Child's Play, couldn't stand to look at any of the dolls my mom had given me. So I shoved them all in my closet at night. And I would go to bed. Mom thought it would be funny because he didn't think I needed to be watching Child's Play either. So she thought she'd be funny. And she took one of the porcelain dolls out and stood it up at the foot of my bed. So when I moved,
No.
it would fall down and I woke up screaming. Yeah. Oh,
Hmm. That's awesome.
that was,
Kudos to your mom.
and
Bad for
now I
you,
have,
but yeah.
well, I have no adrenaline now. So like people will jump out at me and I'm like, what are you doing? I don't have a jumping reflex. It's gone. I was desensitized at an early age.
Yeah. I grew up, like, watching, horror films, so,
Yeah.
all the
Pet
classic
Cemetery.
slashers.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I was there for 'em, yeah. Pet Cemetery for sure. I like
It
animals, so that one has always bothered me. But,
I know. Yeah, I'm the same
yeah.
way.
But, like, Freddy Krueger, all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, Jason, Halloween, like,
Yep.
I don't know. I was, like, in elementary school. This is before high school, and I just watched those, and so those movies don't faze me anymore. I think nowadays the movies that, like, bother me or get to me are the ones that are more, like, torturous, like the Saw franchise,
Yeah.
things like that.
The ones that are super gory and very realistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it easier to watch, like, the made up monster, even if that
Right.
is gory or realistic, because Jeepers Creepers, right?
See,
But
my nanny, she was always one to be like, "Now you remember, it's not real." Like, and if it's bothering you, think about what that stuff is. Well, think about what that material is made of, what they're using. Are they using tomato juice or do you think it's paint? Or like, and so
yeah.
that's where my mind would go watching scary movies when I was growing up. But then I enjoyed them so much that I'd continue to watch them. Like I probably watched it. There's no telling how many times. I loved Tim Curry. I loved his clown. Thought it was the
Yes.
best. course, Bill Skarsgård did really well with the new one, definitely. But yeah, like now, well, of course, like we were talking about earlier, now that I have kids, it's harder for me to watch scary movies with kids, and they seem to be getting younger and younger with every scary movie that I've
Yeah.
seen. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot." It's just, my heart.
Uh,
Ugh.
yeah, I get that. I
Yeah, I
really
still
wanna
haven't watched
see
Blackbone.
I really wanna see the second one. Second ones were really good, but I
The
also am
second what?
really looking forward the second Black Phone, the sequel coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed they were teenagers, so I might go back and watch the first one just to have my story straightened
Yeah.
down because I can't skip them like that. It bothers my OCD.
Okay. But the one that is coming out this month that I definitely am looking forward to is Good Dog, or I'm sorry, Good Boy. Good
Good
Boy.
Boy?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Is it supposed to be like a Cujo redo?
Oh, no, far from it. Okay. The dog is the protagonist in the story, and it's actually like a supernatural themed movie. That's the basis of it. And it's all told from the dog's perspective. And he filmed this with his own dog for like over the course of 4 years, just like trying to get those perfect moments kind of thing. So when you watch the movie, you don't even ever see the person's face because the perspective is all from the dog.
From the dogs, yeah.
Yeah. So as things happen to the owner and that house and all the natural stuff happens, you're witnessing it and like the emotions and whatnot, witnessing it all from the dog's perspective. And no, the dog doesn't die. But that was the number one search. But yeah,
Right, nobody wants to go watch the dog save his family and then die.
pretty much. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, how cool of a thought for a movie.
Yes, yeah. And it early reviews are like it's really great. So I think that I think
Yeah,
it's
it's getting
going to
a
be
6 out of 10, almost 7 out of 10 rating right now on IMDb.
yeah. I think probably the some of the shortcomings I've heard, which makes sense, come from the writing because of how it was filmed. Because it's all told from the dog's perspective, from what I understand in the writing is things are kind of in your face. Like there's a scene where the owner's outside with his dog and he's talking to his neighbor and his neighbor's point blank like, "You're not worried about it, being haunted or anything like that?" And, like just like on the nose, but I get why they did that because they really need to try and move the plot along
Right.
and keep the focus on the dog basically as the main character. So they weren't subtle, in some of those aspects. And from what I understand, that's some of the things that
Well, that'd be interesting to watch. I think it'd be funny if they came out with a cat version, only the cat's working with the demon. How funny would that be?
I
Cat's
tell
sitting
you,
and priest come out with the holy water and he just scoots it off the table, dumps the holy water. Something like that. It's just goofy.
okay, that would be really funny. I'd love all right, audience, you have a mission.
Let's
Somebody with some
get a
YouTube
script.
skills, put together, like, just a little YouTube short of something like this. I would watch it in a heartbeat. It's like like a 5-minute thing, just be
Right, like just a little short, just this cat jacking with an exorcist or something while he's trying to save this person on a bed or something. I don't know. I think that'd be funny, like to a degree.
yeah, it definitely would. I'd watch that. Oftentimes, I'm always telling my cats at
I know
one
you
point or
have sweet
another,
cats though. They're not they're not like some of the cats I know.
"Oh, no, well, I'm pretty sure Moon, tries to murder me and make it look like it's an accident, because
Trips you.
she does the cat thing, constantly walking right in front of me,
Oh, I know.
constantly. I'm just like
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
now
always
I'm
telling her
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's okay. I was gonna say I'm always telling her like, all right, listen, it's not time for dinner. It's like a half hour away. You don't have to kill me."
See, Caleb, his cats don't do that. They'll just walk right on along out ahead of you because he knows they won't stop. He won't stop to avoid stepping on them. So they're like, yeah, we know we're gonna get stepped on because big man can't see us down here. So he loves his cats though. Skunk and Sam,
Yeah,
they're funny.
they're so adorable.
You'd never know we had a second one. Sam, he barely exists in the house. The only time you'll see him is if the food bowls are both empty, and
And
if
he
it's
lets you
just
know.
before bedtime and he wants, scratches. Yeah, that's about it. You won't see him otherwise. Skunk, on the other hand, as soon as people come through the door, he's like out and about, and he'll get really jealous if you're giving the dogs more attention than him. He's a jelly cat. He's our lover. Sam, he's our ghost. You never know we had a second cat.
Oh,
He just appears out of nowhere for a short time, and then he shrinks back into the dark. But, well, I think that was I'm glad you had some good little spooky stories in there about that state pen. I wouldn't be surprised if there was lots of bad energy running through that place.
yeah.
Any asylum, prison, I mean,
Yeah.
but
Definitely, yeah, it would be a cool place to visit. So if you do decide, you'll
yeah.
have to take some photos, take some videos, and we could probably share it, and it'd
I
be
know if
pretty
I can
neat.
find my camera. As soon as I find my camera, I'll definitely be wanting to take some more videos. I don't know what I've done with it. I know
Uh,
I've been moving things around and now I've like, "Oh, no." I'm like, "What did I do with it?"
I have the perfect idea. Stop looking for it. You'll find it.
Right? Yeah. Just give up.
All right, excellent. Well, that was our episode for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, definitely
Like,
feel free to like,
subscribe.
subscribe, or comment. We definitely would love to read about things. And if you have your own experiences, as always, the email's in the description. So next week, we have going with kind of the spooky themes of this month. We do have our next episode will be about urban legends. So we're looking forward to talking about some of those more creepier ones and hope you'll enjoy it too.
Right.
And so
Until next time, so don't follow the whispers too far into the dark. Till next time.
see ya.
Bye.